This week, we were often presented with some material that had statistics in it that didn't quite jive with reality. And I thought I would take off on that this week and look at some of our preconceptions versus the experiences of what addiction does and its impact on unplanned pregnancies. It is very clear from the literature that many people who suffer from addiction have unwanted pregnancies, unplanned pregnancies. And this data is borne out. Uh, the about 86% of the pregnancies are unplanned in these individuals. Given the association between unplanned pregnancies and addiction, a study was done that looked at people obtaining abortions and found that a very high percentage of them, a concordance rate of 0.84, had an unplanned pregnancy. And therefore, they linked this back to the drug abuse. However, they started with only those who had an abortion. They didn't look at all unplanned pregnancies in patients who had drug abuse. So I thought it would be interesting to find out what the actual experience is with these patients.
Mart, you have been working in the field of crisis pregnancies for over 20 years, and you're the CEO of a pregnancy center. So um, I would like to get your reflections on the impact of addiction in the clientele, because I'm sure a number of people who show up with crisis pregnancies have had an addiction to narcotics or alcohol or maybe many substances, maybe even pornography. And how does that affect their decision making? And how do you see it relate? And what do you do with that?
I would say when you said decision making, I see sanctity of life, sanctity of human life. Most of our clients who deal or dealing with substance abuse, sometimes when you sit down with them, you will think that the pregnancy is a symptom because there's two different layers why they are pregnant in the condition they are in.
So a symptom, that's an interesting word to put into that. So can you expound on that? What do you mean by it that pregnancy is a symptom of of
Because when they are pregnant and they are in such condition like a substance abuse, I would say family because sometimes the husband or the boyfriend, they are both
so they're all
users.
the addict with an addict now
Exactly.
in a pregnancy.
Yeah. So when you see the pregnancy, you don't just see the pregnancy because you see the person holistically.
Mm.
It's not only a pregnant woman in front of you. You want to know how they are doing, where they come from. Especially if they are not married, it's an unplanned pregnancy. Why it's unplanned?
Okay. So that's the symptom part of it. But so then I would imagine that most of these people, would look at, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant, and say, okay, got to get rid of that baby because, the drugs confuse their head and confuse their thinking.
But it's the opposite
Why, really?
because the pregnancy for them, most of them, becomes a safe haven. How in the situation God used them to bring life out. There is something sacred inside of them. So they choose life instead of having an abortion.
So does the pregnancy in some way fundamentally change the way they look at themselves?
Exactly. Because that's why we said pregnancy symptoms, because under the pregnancy there is so much hurt. But being pregnant, they want to protect the life inside of them. So they are conscious about their conditions. And this is a motivation for them to stop doing what they are doing because they have to take care of a human being inside of them.
I think once before when we were talking about this, you said something about they see who they are. They see themselves differently than they did when they weren't
Exactly.
pregnant.
Exactly, because they are in a condition they will never think God will use them to win life
So they didn't
because
think
they don't believe they don't deserve it.
they didn't think they were worthy.
Exactly.
And now they're worthy of giving life,
Giving life.
and so they can look at the other pain in their life and say, wow, if I'm worthy, this is something I don't think people would have thought. I'm worthy of giving life. I've got to now change. So
Yes.
rather than it may be a catalyst to them actually stopping to use drugs.
Exactly. And because they want to protect, they don't want their baby to be like they are. They want to be a better mother, a better father. They
Wow.
have to stop because they don't want, because they want to protect their babies. Some of them think they weren't being protected by their parents, so they want to do for the babies what they didn't get for themselves.
So when we treat someone who's an addict, sometimes we talk about giving them something to live for, or a worth in their life, that they often have a depression or something underlying their initial addiction or this lack of self-worth. You're saying that what occurs here, which you've seen, is that the pregnancy, even while they're an addict, gives them a self-worth they didn't have before.
Exactly, because you don't see the depression, you see the person. You have to know why they are depressed.
And so, do you then see, I think I've asked you this before, do you then see them relapse a lot when they're pregnant?
No,
You
I
don't?
don't see. No, I have wonderful mothers. They are happy to carry their pregnancy at term and protect and keep their baby because this is sacred for them.
And I know it's not universal, but does that extend to the fathers who may have been an addict as well?
Sometimes, but we always have them come together. And sometimes it's good for them because the father is the first child.
Okay.
And for the mom is the first child. So they want to do everything they can together to protect the child from the lifestyle.
So in that case, it helps both of them.
Both of them.
But I would imagine that more often than not, some of these men, they don't have that. They don't have the life inside of them, so they don't see a real change in themselves.
Yeah, but a lot of people think that, but it's you need two to tango. With 50%, 50%, the mom it's not 75 or the dad 25. It's two of them having a baby. You know, they both have the responsibility for it. Both of them take, the knowledge, they want to learn how to protect their babies. I've been dealing with that. I'm dealing with that right now. Say they really want to protect human life inside of them. Despite of their condition, despite of whatever, they feel they are blessed.
I think this would be very interesting to people. I think people would actually have the opposite thought and think that, these are the people who are, most interested in terminating a pregnancy and ending a life. When it's the exact opposite, they find value in themselves for the first time and are able to shed their addiction. Maybe the baby becomes their new addiction, if you will.
Exactly. That's because they never think they will be able to carry a child because of the condition. So when they get pregnant, it's oh my God. And they do everything they can to protect what they have. Sometimes the baby is the only thing they have because it's come through them. It's
Yeah. I've heard you say this before. They just
it's
hold on to that baby.
When you talk to them, they always like that because they want to protect the baby.
Well, Mark, thank you very much. I think you've given us a lot of good information that potentially we didn't understand before. Thank you very much, and thank you for what you do.
Pleasure.
I think what we should learn from this is that God always has a greater plan. As the Apostle Paul tells us, we know that in everything God works for good with those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. And those whom he predestined, he also called. And these whom he called, he also justified. And those whom he justified, he glorified. Thank you.